It's Saturday, time for a stimulus update. We've got some news from the White House on both the stimulus front and a government shutdown front that it could be coming at the end of this month. Hey everyone, I'm Clayton Morris. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel and hitting that little bell notification so you're notified whenever we publish a brand new video. Good to see everyone on this Saturday. So we have some news from Vice President Mike Pence on a new stimulus package and where the White House's head is on all of this. But first I want to talk about what Nancy Pelosi and Steven Mnuchin managed to work out. This is good news around a government shutdown. That's right. We actually have some good news from the Treasury Secretary and Nancy Pelosi on the Democratic side. Now, the big fear, of course, was that we were going to be facing a government shutdown at the end of September and that somehow we'd be tying stimulus package pieces together inside of a government shutdown bill. So passing these appropriations bill. Well, it seems like both sides had cooler heads in all of this. And the news of the morning is that Nancy Pelosi, Steven Mnuchin, the White House and Democrats managed to come together, negotiate and come together to prevent a government shutdown. That's big news, and that's big news for all of those quote-unquote non-essential government employees that are always worried about whether or not they'd be furloughed, be without money, they're not getting their paychecks, and then they have to wait a number of weeks and they get retroactive payment. It's a huge pain in the butt, and of course all of the national parks, and the list goes on, right? We don't need to rehash this. We do this government shutdown every year dance. So they may not be able to agree on the second stimulus just yet, but we do have an agreement to make a deal on this government shutdown. 36-minute phone call. That's all it took between Nancy Pelosi and Steven Mnuchin. And what they did was their informal agreement right now is called a clean continuing resolution. And it will provide funding through September 30th for federal programs and vital services. This means that at least they're getting the thing pushed through by the end of September. And now we won't have to deal with stimulus stuff being tied up as leverage to get the government to remain open. So that's good news on that front. Now we still have some questions about the stimulus. Now, Vice President Mike Pence said, look, first we want to talk about these negotiations on the government shutdown. So we were able to get that in place. He was asked, though, specifically about another round of stimulus yesterday. Let's listen to Vice President Mike Pence and parse some of what he had to say. Take a listen.
Made available, the agreement reached this week by the Treasury Secretary and our negotiations team to have a continuing resolution to continue to fund the government when the fiscal year runs out at the end of this month means that now we can focus just on another relief bill. And we're continuing to do that in good faith. Look, nobody wants to give direct payments to American families more than President Donald Trump again. I mean, we sent those checks to American families. It helped people through this tough time. We want to continue the Paycheck Protection Program, which we think laid a foundation for many of the Americans that are coming off the sidelines, going back to work. We were able to preserve those job opportunities precisely because this president negotiated the Paycheck Protection Program. Those are vital programs. We want them to continue. But what we've made clear is we're not going to allow Democrats in Congress to use a coronavirus relief bill to bail out poorly run Democrat states in the country. And so we're in the midst of the negotiation, and we're going to stay focused on American families, on American businesses. But this job report today tells you that the American economy is coming back. We're going to continue those policies that are equipping Americans to make their way through this time. But we're also going to continue to take our case all across this country that we need 4 more years of exactly the policies, Kayla, that have laid the foundation for this remarkable V-shaped recovery that is taking place. I mean, think about that.
Well, I'll think about it, and let's get away from all the politics, 4 more years and all that. Okay, great. We could parse that and do a whole separate video on this V-shaped recovery, and many experts say it's more like a K-shaped recovery, more like an X-shaped recovery right now, with millions of people still unemployed and people still looking for work right now, and many small businesses totally collapsed because the government has had a lack of leadership from the top, from President Trump, not being able to push through any kind of further stimulus package. You know, we had all summer, we had since March, April, when we knew that we were going to need another round of stimulus. We knew that we were going to need another round of stimulus, and there was a lack of leadership from this White House calling on Mitch McConnell, asking them to pass another round of stimulus. If he, as I'll quote what he just said, He said nobody wants to give direct payments to the American families more than President Donald Trump. We sent those checks to the American families. It helped people through this tough time. Yes, it did. So where was the president on his leadership during the summer when he could have been calling Mitch McConnell back from his vacations and saying, Senate, we need to pass another stimulus bill. Let's get it done. Instead, crickets. And he's been out on the golf course. And meanwhile, the HEROES Act has been sitting on the desk of the Senate was passed by Democrats. Yes, there's government bloat in there because any liberal package is going to have that kind of stuff in there. Work on it, negotiate instead of taking vacations. So the reason why there's such lack of leadership here on all of this is because the Republicans are set to roll out a skinny bill next week. Great. So they're going to roll out a skinny bill which will not include direct stimulus checks. Again, a failure of leadership from President Trump. If your Senate, a Republican-controlled Senate with Mitch McConnell, is going to roll out a skinny bill that does not have direct stimulus checks, why is he not on the phone with Mitch McConnell? Why is he not telling him, I'm not going to sign this until you get me direct stimulus checks to the American people? PPP, loan programs, and additional unemployment money as well. Where's the leadership? It's the ball's in your court, President Trump. So let's do away with all the spin there, Mr. Pence, okay? With all due respect. But he is right that the stimulus checks did help the American economy. We've got new data out this morning that I wanted to bring to you in this update. New, fresh smelling out of the oven data on exactly how well these stimulus checks actually help the American people. Over half, according to this new data, over half of U.S. households spent their stimulus checks on essential bills like rent and food. The majority of Americans, 59%, used their checks to pay for daily expenses like food bills and rent. The one-time coronavirus stimulus checks were issued, of course, as part of that CARES Act back in March. And actually, many of these checks haven't even arrived for Americans, so many people are going to still receive some of these. But this is another a reason why we need to pass additional stimulus, because the first round worked so well. The largest portion of the respondents in this survey, in this data, said 66% said they used at least some of their stimulus checks to pay for food. Think about that. The amount of Americans right now that are food insecure. I know I'm hearing from many of you right here in our chat. Let me know in the comments. Have you had to skip meals? Are you really skimping on what food you would normally buy because you don't have access to the money to be able to do that? This is America right now. We should not be living like this, where we have to worry about food during a pandemic. 26 million American adults reported in July that people in their households were not getting enough to eat because they didn't have the funds to pay for food, according to this data. This is U.S. Census data, by the way. Half of those who received a check spent it on utility bills, while 47% spent it on some household supplies and personal care items. More than half of U.S. respondents used it to pay for housing. 28% spent part of it on rent. An additional 23% used it to pay their mortgage. How many of you used it to pay rent or other bills? Let me know in the comments. After paying for essentials like food and rent, 13% used to pay checks to pay off debt, and 12% saved most of it. Only 12% saved most of it. People in lower income groups, here we go again, mostly the hardest hit, of course, reported using their checks to cover daily expenses more than people in the higher income groups. Of people earning less than $25,000 per year, 77% used their stimulus checks for expenses like food and rent, while 48% of those earning between $100,000 and $150,000 reported the same. So again, lower income people hit incredibly hard during this pandemic, and once again, the need for additional stimulus. So go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe to our channel. Please also don't forget to subscribe to our daily morning newsletter. It publishes 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Every morning you get it right to your inbox. We don't do it on Saturdays because I need some time off, although I am doing a show today. so I guess I don't really get any time off. But anyway, and then we have a Sunday version of the newsletter, and that's only for people that have referred friends, up to 3 friends. It's all right in there in your dashboard. If you refer 3 friends, you get access to our Sunday Morning Invest newsletter. It's totally free. You can read it under 5 minutes with your morning cup of coffee. And I also want to say thank you so much to everyone who supported our channel and became a channel member yesterday during our live chat. You can do so right here. Right here's the link, morninginvest.com/join. I want to say thank you because what you're doing is you're helping to support independent journalism. That we are not bought and sold by some big corporation like CNN or MSNBC or Fox News, okay? We are independent, and we get to bring you the news that I think matters to real people. So thank you so much for becoming a channel member. We'll see you next time, everyone.